Hey everyone, today's overview and review video is on a Kickstarter game that is coming out very soon, and it is Davy Jones Locker, The Kraken Wakes. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to Zach from PudKat Games, who did send this copy to me to review for you. So this is about ships and the Kraken moving around on the board. This game is for 1 to 4 players, and it lasts roughly about 30 minutes per player. And this is a cooperative game, so you either make it together or you don't make it at all. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Chrissy. This is 2 Sheep 1 Wheat. If there's a game that you would love for me to review, please let me know what that is down in the comments below. Like this video, and of course subscribe to the channel. And just a reminder, this is a prototype copy. But let's go ahead and take a look at all of the components to this game. So we have a few boards on the table. This is our main board here. This is double-sided, so there are 2 acts in this game. This is Act 1, and Act 2 on the other side of the board is when the Kraken will come out. So along with these boards, we do have double-sided ship boards here. These are our player boards where we're going to be able to control all of our moves throughout the game. We also have this Kraken board here that usually gets set up on Act 2. I have it set up right here so that we can explain it just a little bit. So when the Kraken comes out, the Kraken is going to have tentacles like this. So depending on how many players there are, depends how many Kraken tentacles come out. All the Kraken tentacles are going to have 3 lives, which are on these 4 tentacle dice right here. Then depending how many players are playing this game, you're going to mark it here. This is for 2 players, 3 players at 18, and 4 players at 24. I have a 2-player game set up here, even though I only have the 1-player board set up, but we will mark it here on number 12 for that. So I'll explain this maybe just a little bit more in Act 2 on what you actually can do and how the Kraken works. But with that set next to the board, we have these 3 black spot cards. You need to set 3 of them here at random, and then you can also just set the compass dice here just to the side. We do have a lot more dice in this game. We do have these dice right here. These are fortune dice. Then we have our league dice right here. We also have a die on our ship. This is our integrity die. The character that I picked for my board here is the Hammerhead. And the color associated with your player board is associated with the ship and also the location that it's going to be starting on. As an action, you'll be able to move around the board and also stop in one of these ports, which are the islands that are on each corner of the board. You can either choose to explore or you can go to the market, which are these cards right here that are on each side next to the corresponding islands. And of course, this wouldn't be a Kraken game without gold coins. So each player does start the game off with 2. So there are many different versions of this game. This is a typical regular length game. There is a short version, there is an easy version, and there is a hard version, and you can also play this game solo. With the easy version, you do start off with a little bit more coins, but this is for a typical setup. So one small setup for starting the game is your abilities here. This is for Act 1. You get to choose between these 2 cards which one you want to do. And for Act 2, these actually get flipped over, so you want to make sure that you are reading those ones as well to make sure that these are going to be able to help you out throughout the game. So let's just say we're going to pick this one here, and we can flip that right there. So these are just going to give you some kind of abilities throughout the game that might be a little rule breaking. Then you need to add shipwrecks on these 2 locations right here, on the south and north location. So these shipwrecks are placed out onto the board as an action during your turn. You'll be able to explore them and hopefully gain some kind of treasure. So there are a few decks in the game. The first deck is Event. So Event is going to be drawn at the beginning of each round. Each round is after every player has gone, a new round will begin. So at the beginning of every round, you're going to be flipping over an event card and you're going to be reading it out loud, and you're going to do everything that is on this card. Now, if as an example, this one here, Muggled Goods. Place the top card of each market deck. So that would be these ones here. So you're going to take 1 from each deck face down in a pile above the board. Players may make a visit market action while occupying Smuggler's Den, which is this one right here. If they do, they will look at all of the cards within the pile, choose one to purchase for half cost listed. Now these cards here do have a cost at the top, how much they cost. So in this case, it would only be 1 coin instead of 2. Players who make this action cannot reveal which cards are in the pile. At the end of the round, shuffle the remaining cards back into the market decks. So that is the event deck, and that is going to last for the whole round until every player has gone. So the way to get to Act 2, the other side of the board, is to have no more event cards available for you to draw. As soon as the last card has been drawn, the game ends immediately and you flip the board over and start setting up for Act 2. So now let's go ahead and take a look at all of the actions that you can take during your turn. Each player, starting with the first player going clockwise, get to take up to 3 actions. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first one. So the first action that you can take is sail. Sailing is moving your ship through the ocean, and that is right here on your board. It is going to be in green. So if you're in the shallow spot, you can move anywhere that you want and start your journey that way. So as an example, we can move into here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can make our way to Smuggler's Den here. So for the second action, it is a trade. So if 2 players are on the exact same spot, then they're able to make a trade action, and you can trade any market cards, any gold, or any treasure cards. And both players have to be in agreement that they are willing to make the trade to do that. But that is another action that you can do, trading. Now, a third action that you can do, it is repair. Repair is this one right here in the red on your board, and you can repair anything on your board up to the number that is where your cube is. In this case, I could repair 1, and that includes your integrity die as well. Some instances on the board may happen where it's going to lower some of your stats. Could be from a card, could be from a battle, things like that. It can lower the stats and your integrity die from your ship, and this will allow you to be able to repair them. So one of the reasons why you would want to get some of the cards that allow you to up your stats here from your base locations is because a lot of these cards, whenever you're doing an attack action, which is the next action, you're going to need to do some skill tests. And skill tests are going to be using all of these options here on your board. So the higher your skill is, the more dice you're going to be able to roll for any of those skill testings whenever you're attacking. And then we go on to the other action, which is explore a shipwreck. So when you're in the open sea and you make your way from doing a sail move to be able to go on to here, explore shipwreck action. Now, one thing to mention too, when you're moving in the open sea, at the end of every sail action, you're going to need to flip over this other deck here called open sea. Now, open sea is basically just something that's going to happen because the sea is so unpredictable, you never know what's going to happen. So this is just going to be something else that you'll need to deal with. So this here is Rumors of Treasure. Place this card above your ship board for the next 3 turns. Anytime you make an Explore Shipwreck action with this card, you get to roll 2+ dice. And after 3 turns, then this card just gets discarded. If there is a player that is within 4 spaces from the shipwreck, you can ask that player to help you out with the shipwreck because there's going to be some kind of skill test that's going to need to be done to be able to collect the treasure from the shipwreck. So this brings us to another deck. Whenever you do the shipwreck, the explore shipwreck, you're going to flip over the top card that is on top of here. Now this one here is the Unseen Captain's Hidden Riches. So for this one, we need to make a hull roll. So this one, I would have 3 dice that I'd be able to do. However, because of this card, I get an extra 2. So I would actually get 5 of the fortune dice and you would make a roll. Now, depending on what you got, it'll be marked right here. So this one I did roll 6+. So it says your ship takes the rocks with ease at a slow pace. You find his ship beached on the side of the large pool. Draw 2 treasure cards, pick 1 and shuffle the others back in. +2 to any stat and I get to collect 4 coins. So in that card, it did say to draw 2. So these would be our 2 options here. Quick fire cannon. You may make 1 free attack action during your turn. And Steel Enforced Keel says hull cannot be lowered. Do not roll for tentacle breach damage. +1 die on hull rolls for each space between you and the attacker, except the Kraken. So these are the 2 that you can choose. Any one that you choose just gets placed next to your board. And so that was treasure cards. So then we go on to the next action, and that would be bolstering. So when you choose to bolster, you take one of these dice and you place it on the 1, and you're going to place this beside which stat you want to upgrade on your ship. And then, so this is just going to act as the bolster counter here. Each stats can only be bolstered 1 time at any point. So let's say we wanted to do an attack, we can bolster that, and instead of 4, it would be now 5. And then for a last action, which is kind of a last action, but there's two parts to it. You can visit a port. Now, during the port visit, you can either explore or visit the market. So exploring, so to do this, you need to be in a port. And again, it doesn't matter which location you're in the shallow end right here, as long as you're next to the port, then you get to do the action. So when doing the explore action, you take the first card at the top of the explore deck. So the blurb here says, as you come to pass a small isle, you see a very haggard sailor deserted on its shores, waving for help. You're tempted to rescue him, but wonder if there's a reason he was left there. So it says that you can make a sail roll, and if you get 5+, you weigh anchor and send a dinghy. He thanks you, tells you of his perils, and is happy to work as part of the crew. So he would actually give you +1 hull, and he would give you 4 coins. If you got 3 to 4 on your roll, you decide the risk is not worth it and sail by. You would still get +1 sail and 2 coins, but if you didn't get it, it would be 0 to 2. Your men are ambushed as they reach shore, and it would give you a -1 for sail. So that was explore. Then we go on to market. So for market, you can draw 3 cards. Now you can also include 3 of these cards within the discard pile. So this one, to discard that card, you get +2 hits on any attack roll. This one, you would get +1 hit on all attack rolls. And this one, activate for 1 attack action. You get +1 range, and then separately roll 1 die against each enemy and ship adjacent to the target. If you roll 1+ hit, they take 1 damage. And this has a reload of 2. So that is the market card. You get to pick which one you want. And again, the cost for these cards are at the top corner. Obviously, the higher coin value, the better card that it is. So those are all the actions that you can take during your turn. And again, you can do up to 3 of those per your turn. Now, what ends the game, like I said earlier, is the event deck runs out completely, then Act 2 starts immediately. Now, another way is whenever you're drawing your open sea cards here, and that is, again, whenever you're moving through the ocean and you stop, you need to draw one of these cards. Now, there are Kraken Modifier cards in here. So whenever one of those are drawn, it gets placed next to the Kraken board right here. And when it has 3 of these Kraken Modifier cards, that is what is going to end Act 1, and then we start into Act 2. So these Kraken Modifiers here are whenever you start on Act 2, the Kraken already has a base strength, and this is just going to add to it. And it is only going to add to it if you have met the requirement for it. So these 3 right here at the beginning of Act 2 is what you're going to be adding to it. So here's Surprise Attack. Tentacles can deal up to 2 damage when rolling for tentacle breach damage. And this one here, the start the Kraken's life total 4 points above the starting position. So that would be right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we would actually be starting at 16. This one here, ships cannot sail into League 3. If a ship is moved into League 3, their next action must be sailing out of it. So I'm going to flip over the board and I'll explain more about what leagues are and a little bit more of the Kraken board. So leagues are the circles around. So there are 4 different circles. This location right here is the eye of the whirlpool. And then we have the leagues, but then we also have octants. Now octants are the locations on the board here, and they're kind of separated by the yellow outlines. And then of course we have the octant leagues. So this would be an octant, this location here, but then we also have the leagues within it. So this would be 1, 2, and 3. So now that we know a little bit more about the board, we can set up. The Kraken head always goes directly into the center. And like I said at the beginning of the game, because I have a 2-player game set up with only 1 board, we get 4 tentacles that we're going to need to put out onto the board. Now to figure out where the tentacles go, you need to roll one of the compass dice and also one of the league dice to figure out where it's going to go. So you roll this, and it would be northeast in 3. So this one would spawn in northeast. So we'll take number 1 here, and it's going to go into northeast, and it's going to go into the 3rd one. So that is how you get the tentacles out onto the board. So then you'll also flip over your ability card here, and then it's going to go to Act 2. We want to flip over these 3 black spark cards here that we placed at the beginning of the game. Now these are going to be modifiers for the Kraken as well. So these here says add 1 Kraken modifier, max of 5. If we're at 2 players here, stats have been raised 4 positions plus. So if any of your stats have been raised up 4, then you would add 1 life to the Kraken for each. if all players have full integrity, and any players have the navigator or the master gunner. So those are the Kraken modifiers. Once they have been added, these ones just get placed back into the box. So now once your ship has been spawned, this is another deck in this game, Whirlpool. This comes out in Act 2. You're going to flip the top one and you're going to do everything that is on here. Now these cards are similar to the event cards. At the beginning of each round, you're going to be drawing a new one. So now this one here has this icon right here, and that means this is the direction of the whirlpool on this board. So this one basically means that each player here is going to be pushed 2 to the side. So 1, 2. And this arrow here is a blue up, so that means that I'm going to be pushed 1 league further, like away from the Kraken. If it was red, then I would move closer to it. And so once that is done, this one here, it says, if a tentacle spawns or moves into the same space as a player or does any damage to a player, that player cannot sail during this round. So we're going to keep this flipped over and placed to the side so that we can remember what's going on here. So that is basically the setup for Act 2. You're going to draw one of those Whirlpool cards at the beginning of every single round. That is the first thing that you're going to do. The next thing that's going to happen during this turn is the tentacles are going to move and they're going to attack. So now is when each tentacle is going to make their move. Each tentacle is marked by a number so that you know which health is going to be associated with which tentacle. So each tentacle has the stats right here from their board, so they can attack 4, their defense is 3, the range is 2 spaces, and they can move 2 spaces as well. So now whenever the tentacle is choosing a target, the target to this, the whole way that they move is going to be right here. So they're going to use the closest ship, the same octant, highest integrity, highest hull, or most equipped. So in this case, I am the only one out on the board. I am the closest one, so it's going to move 2. This one, so tentacles can move into the same spot as your ship. So in this case, number 4 here is going to trigger the tentacle breach damage. So now that all the tentacles have moved, now they are going to attack. So this one will attack this one. And number 2 will also attack because it is within the 2 spaces for their range. Now, like I said, 4 is in the same location as me, so that triggered the tentacle breach damage. Now, whenever this happens, you just instantly lose 1 integrity, and integrity is on your ship here, and it would go down 1. So now their attack is with 4 dice. So you would take the 4 dice and you would basically roll, and whatever the damage is on top of what your hull is, so mine is 3. So I would basically take 2 damage. This would go down 2 more. So once all of the tentacles have done their damage, they've moved, they've done their damage, they have attacked. Now it is the Kraken's turn. So the Kraken, instead of targeting players, the Kraken targets octants. So because basically the board is full of octants here, it would take forever to figure out which ones to actually attack. So in this case, you're actually just going to roll 3 compass dice to see which locations are safe from the Kraken. So in this case, it is southeast, southwest, and north. I am in northwest, so that would mean that the Kraken is going to attack me. So once the Kraken is done and you have survived, then it is all players' turn, starting again with the first player moving clockwise. So this is your time to do your actions. Now in the first act, you could only pick one action 1 time. You couldn't do the same action twice or 3 times within your turn. But in Act 2, you can do any of the actions that you want multiple times. So let's take a look at what those actions are for Act 2. So basically we have the same type of actions that we did in Act 1. We have repair, trade, and sail, and then of course we do have attack in case we need to. But in this case we do have a Bribe the Crew and a rescue Deckhands. Deckhands are these people right here. So bribing a crew is pirates love gold. So for a bribe of 1 gold, you can bribe your crewmates to work harder. So this basically just means that you get to re-roll 1 of your dice. So now rescue deckhands are these meeples right here. So this basically happens like the Kraken attacked me and it did 5 damage. My integrity would actually go down and I would not have a ship no longer. When this happens, you're going to flip your board over and you're going to show the backside of it, and this is rescue deckhands. So wherever you are on the board, when you die, your ship comes off and you take one of your deckhands and you would place it on the location that your ship sunk. Then the other 2 meeples go on the back of your ship. So whenever this happens, whenever you get rescued, any gold or market cards that you had, the player who rescues you is going to collect those onto their ship. So that is one way that you can go aboard another ship. If your deckhand is still out on the board and you have not been rescued, you still have actions. You are not out of the game. You can either swim or you can board a ship yourself. Or if someone rescues you, you are no longer a captain and you are deckhands on their ship. And that is the board that we flipped over from your ship. So rescue deckhands, you get 3 deckhands on this ship and you have a total of 9 actions that you can do. But you can only take 2 actions with each of these. You can either move up 1 space or you can man part of the ship. So manning part of the ship is when you move up and you're on one of these locations with the icons. It is associated with these actions down here at the bottom. Now, once you do those, you can no longer move up on the ship. And the whole reason that you want to get to the end of the ship here is because of this action here. It says raise any stat on the rescuer ship by 1 position. Now, moving up 1 position on the stats comes in handy, especially for Act 2, because the Kraken is so powerful, and that is what's going to win this game. You want to diminish the Kraken. And how you lose the game if there are no more Whirlpool cards to draw from. So that is how you play the game. That is Act 1 and Act 2, all of the pieces that put this game together. It is a pretty well thought through game. I'm so happy that I got to try this game. This game first got onto my radar about a year ago, and I've been looking forward to it ever since. I think the game is, like I said, really well put together. I wasn't too sure how I was going to deal with Act 1 and Act 2 because anybody who has watched this channel, I have a hard time with Brass Birmingham because of the 2 different eras. However, this is completely different. It is starting... It's basically part 1, you're setting yourself up so that you can go and defeat the Kraken. You're setting yourself up, so make sure that you have lots of gold, you have a lot of market cards, you've explored enough to gain those coins, and because in round 2, depending on which character you're playing, because the character that I played, I think it was Red, had to, in Act 1, got you a lot of coins, but I never kept any of the coins, and when I got to Act 2, all of my actions that are on there for my player actions were spending the coins. They were really good options to use. I just didn't have any of the coins. So that is kind of how this game is set up. Act 1 sets you up for Act 2. So really saving your coins and setting yourself up, really getting those market cards. You can have unlimited market cards. Go ahead and travel throughout the board. And again, don't be too afraid to move around because you get the open sea cards. And of course, this game does have something to do with luck because of all of the dice that you're rolling around. There are so many turns, so really try to get around the board, visiting different ports, getting different market cards. You really want a lot of options going into round 2. You really want to set yourself up. The Kraken is pretty powerful, especially because you're getting those Kraken modifiers. You really want to set yourself up. So you want to visit all the different ports. You want to go to the market. You want to explore to get the coins to get to the market and be able to get those cards. But a lot of the Kraken modifiers are, if you've done too much in the game, it's going to hinder you a little bit. But I suppose you're still setting yourself up really well because you'll have an overabundance of the cards and the coins that you need. So I'm thinking that the Kraken modifiers won't really affect you too much. So I think Zach did a really well job with the game, thinking of everything, right? If you did really well in Act 1, it's going to kind of punish you in Act 2. But you kind of have to, there's a sweet spot there in the middle, because if you don't get anything and you just kind of, if you don't get anything, then you're really going to have a hard time in Act 2 because the Kraken is pretty powerful. And the more players that you play with, the more tentacles come out on the board. And I do love this Kraken. I have no idea what his plan is for the final version of this game once the Kickstarter is fulfilled. But I love the 3D Kraken in this. I think it is so clever. It is so nice. And it really kind of brings the board game to life, which I think this game, this type of theme that it is, it really helps give a 3D aspect to it, especially for the Whirlpool side of the board, because it is a little bit more bland, right? It is a Whirlpool, so it's a lot more darkers and it's just gray and blue. So having this on the board really brings it out. I really love this. I really like the art style on the other side of the board too when you're just traveling around. And again, a lot of those cards, like a lot can happen if you draw the cards for it, because there are different tiles that you can place out on the board. There are these other tokens right here too for other ships that come out for different things. for the different cards that you're going to pull. So you do have all of these options that can come out on the board. They may not come out on the board, which is really neat too. Like these ones I was saying, and then the other ones too. So a lot is coming out on the other side of the board. A lot that's making it unique to the game. And then, like I was saying way at the beginning of the video too, is that it does have solo. It does have an easy game, so an easy version, so it just sets you up with a little bit more. Like it does start with 4 coins, and there's a couple of other rule changes that just make it easier, but then there is some that makes it harder, and then there is one that's actually a quicker version of this game, which is just strictly playing with Act 2. So the variety in this game, the way that you can play, all of the different options, there's definitely going to be something in this game that really piques your interest, and that's the way that you're going to want to play this game. There is a lot of communicating within this game. It is cooperative, so you're going to be talking around the board. You know, if you go over here, then I can do this. Maybe we can meet up. We can trade off some things. Oh geez, you really got that. That would really come in handy for me because of all of my different cards that I got, or my different actions, my player actions that I can do. So a lot of communicating within this game, and it's just a lot of fun to play. I was really surprised by this game, really happy that I got to try it out. It is a lot of fun. All the different cards. I love the artwork too on the cards. I think they're so neat, and everything. They do match from the other side of the board, all of the explore cards here, so that you can not go by name, but you can even just go by what the card looks like too for setup. So I will say this, there are a lot of cards going on in this game, so setup for this is a little bit bigger. It is taking up a little bit more on the table, and of course there is the second act where you have to flip the board and you have to kind of set up the game all over again. So those are 2 things to consider with the game too. Those 2 aren't a big deal for me at all. I don't mind setting up another game. I don't mind having a table hog because our table is on the bigger side. So all of those things for me are not a bad thing. It is just a, hey, this is that type of game. So anyways, I really enjoyed this game. I have all of the information for this game down in the descriptions below. Be sure to check out this Kickstarter. Zach has been amazing. He is on Discord as well. I can place that down in the description if you are on there as well. So go ahead and take a look at that link. Check out the Kickstarter. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you next time.